I just want to preface by saying that this conference is a wonderful idea. I personally have enjoyed the presentation so far, and no doubt the conference has a lot to offer and a lot of potential for more success and growth in the future. My presentation today is titled Leveraging Writing Support Across Diverse Learning Environments, a 3S Understanding Approach. I know we'll have a few minutes for questions at the end, but as a disclaimer or warning, I tend to sometimes skim through things. And if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to interrupt me. And I can't see the chat at this time. So feel free to unmute, or maybe Macy, if you could notify of any questions in the chat, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, definitely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So my name is Mohsin Bansad, and I serve as the director of the Writing and Communication Center, or WCC for short, at Ashland University. And while my office is on the main campus in the library, we serve residential, online, and incarcerated students. And as a director of an academic support center, although I teach composition courses, today I'm going to be focused more on the support that non-traditional, diverse college students receive with their assignments. So just to give you a little background on the WCC, it was founded back in 1987 to provide support with writing assignments to struggling students. And for very long, the Writing Center only provided help to students who were struggling with or struggling in undergraduate freshman classes. So it's only for freshmen, mostly freshmen, but mostly or entirely for undergraduate students. And for so long, it was not available to graduate students, and not until 2021, the international students in the pre-academic intensive English program, the one that we have in-house, these students were not allowed to use the service. The idea was that this space was mainly for those weak writers in undergraduate writing courses. And this view, I suppose, has continued to persist. And I would imagine it is the case in most institutions with writing centers. About 2 to 3 years ago, the Writing Center at Ashland University expanded its services to become the Writing and Communication Center, and provide support with all assignments that involve communication. So not just essays or research papers, but also presentations, oral presentations, digital productions, and so on and so forth. We don't help with test preparation or content understanding. That's the task of a different unit on campus, but we focus more on the process of communication. In fact, we do have 4 foundational principles that guide the WCC and guide our coaches and consultants, and they are trained to uphold. One is the process approach. Following that, when we're working with clients, individualized learning. The bulk of our services is providing one-on-one consultations, skill transfer, and autonomous learning. So again, the focus on not just helping students produce better papers and better assignments, but also providing them with the skills that they can actually use beyond that consultation. And the fourth principle is mindfulness and inclusivity. So we strive to make our space a welcoming one, a safe environment for all students. So presumably would all agree that there's always a need for inclusive, democratic education in U.S. higher ed. And the question becomes, how should this education be framed, theoretically speaking, especially knowing that most academic programs in higher ed are dedicated to neutral study of specific discipline areas, and not all faculty see themselves and as a big issue when it comes to teaching writing, for example. So these faculty don't see themselves qualified to teach effective writing and communication. And when I was drafting the proposal for this conference presentation, I was trying to think of a way to organize and conceptualize the work that we do here. So for such tremendous endeavor that requires more than just mastering a subject matter or content area, we need a meaningful pedagogy. And meaningful pedagogies, according to Henderson and Gornick, are the kind of teaching pedagogies that move beyond the subject matter achievement, that push students to actively engage in the learning process, not just as students in the traditional sense of the term, but also as disciplined and active meaning makers. So one such meaningful pedagogy is called 3S understanding. 3S understanding can be defined as a theoretical perspective on curriculum developed by James Henderson out of Kent State University. And this perspective looks at the interplay of the subject matter, the content area, self-learning, understanding oneself, and social learning or social critique, how we are engaging what goes around in the community and in society into our education. So let me start from the beginning. To understand 3S understanding better, I think we'll have to understand the paradigms within which Henderson is working. And he actually differentiates between three educational paradigms. The first one, he calls it the dominant standardized management paradigm. So within this orientation, the emphasis is on standardization through systematically dictating a set of predetermined skill-based and content-based subject learning. So again, the focus is on standards, the focus is on testing. Teachers are not seen as creators of meaning. They're more of functionaries. They're there to apply a certain curriculum. They're given a textbook and they have to cover the chapters in the textbook from A to Z, and there's a test that students take, and that's it. But when we move from standardization to best practices, we enter the realm of the best practice constructivist paradigm. So this constructivist paradigm distinguishes itself from the standardized paradigm by shifting the focus of teaching from what is called in language teaching, declarative knowledge to more of procedural knowledge. And by emphasizing student demonstration of understanding of the subject matter as students are guided to transfer knowledge and skills in more challenging and authentic settings. Here, the teacher's role or the instructor's role is to facilitate the construction of meaning. But in this framework, education does not really go beyond teaching for subject matter understanding. So we needed a step further to achieve that deep learning. And under the curriculum wisdom paradigm, which is the third one that Henderson and colleagues advocate for, educators are to teach for subject matter understandings deepened by self and social understandings. So here, thoughtful subject learning calls for thinking-centered pedagogy that pushes students to construct meaning by relying on their intellect over habit and making personal sense of what they learn. So Henderson argues that this is best assessed through personalized performance-based learning outcomes, engaging both personal as well as social dimensions of evaluation. So in this sense, standards are not synonymous with standardization. Rather, they are holistic and transformative, as they are grounded in the integration of the content of the course into self-directed, democratic living and societal critique. So again, content knowledge is important. Personally meaningful content knowledge is more important, and content knowledge that is embedded in democratic self and social understanding is enduring and wise. And in order to develop their professional artistry and teach for democratic living, teachers must elevate their teaching craft through inquiry and engage in professional development. So there's that continuous push for intrinsic push for improvement and challenging oneself. So under this paradigm, the teacher is not a functionary, obviously, is viewed as a critical thinking being who is able to think imaginatively and take part in sophisticated educational conversations, and is to experience living democratically and discern those subtle dimensions in their practice. So this wisdom curriculum inquiry starts with the learner, but the knowledge and experience of the teacher guides the whole process. So what I want to do next is see and explain how the WCC, the Writing and Communication Center, applies 3S understanding in our work by looking at the different services we offer and how these services cater to different needs and diverse students. So this is a map that I tried to create using Canva. I apologize if it's a little bit blurry, but I'm gonna touch on the services that are, I suppose, that serve as good examples to explain, especially the 3S understanding, the application of 3S understanding. So in terms of in-class services, I'd like to share with you the Embedded Coach program. While we don't have to, again, to go over every single service we offer, I'd like to focus on these, especially in terms of maybe the integration of age. And when I took on this position, my main concern was reaching all students, regardless of classification, whether they are in the graduate, residential, fully online, or in prison. And this program was one of the the struggling services that really didn't develop momentum, but over the semesters, I think we've managed to find the right, recipe for successful implementation of this service. So this is a service that is donor funded, and where we embed a trained WCC coach in classes that are writing or communication intensive. Embedded coaches work closely with faculty members and serve as facilitators during class discussions or peer review sessions. Their main role is to serve as a bridge connecting faculty with students. And in fact, we find that students typically feel ambivalent to open up about their needs or concerns or doubts in class, but they feel more encouraged and more comfortable sharing those concerns with a peer tutor or coach. So in a way, our coaches serve as mentors to students, but mentees to the faculty members whose classes they are embedded in. We do have different models. So fully embedded is when the coach is in class all the time or most of the time. Partially embedded is when the coach attends about 30 to 50% of the time. And the limited model is when the coach only attends a few sessions in a semester to provide help with, let's say, peer review workshops or whenever they're needed. And this way, embedded coaches are more effective, and the support that we provide also includes working closely with faculty. So we do have the embedded coach program coordinator who works with faculty members and make sure that they are using the embedded coaches effectively. Another example of this one is a little bit better, or a little bit different from the in-class support that we provide, such as with embedded coach program. This is more of a workshop course. A 1-credit course that's available to all undergraduate students on campus or online. It is more of an opportunity for students to receive one-on-one guidance and support as they work on improving their writing skills and completing other class projects. It doesn't come with any additional homework to the students. So students are paired up with a WCC coach and meet at least once a week for 1 hour to work on writing assignments in whatever writing intensive course they are taking. And on the plus side, again, they get to earn that 1 credit. They can take it up to 2 times for credit, and we have students who actually take it continuously just because they can see the value of the course. So the coaches give guidance on genre writing, organization, logic, integration of citations, for example, formatting things like grammar, syntax, punctuation, and many other aspects of writing. Again, the course emphasizes the importance of individualized learning and skill transfer, and our coaches also serve as mentors. All of our coaches have, or prior to working with us, actually, they have already completed their freshman composition courses. So again, they are there providing that layer of support to students or maybe struggling with writing assignments. And by the way, this also includes CCP students, and that stands for College Credit Plus. So we do have students who are not here, are not taking full load courses at the university level, but they may be taking composition courses while they're still in high school, and they need that layer of support. The WCC e-tutoring service, this is an asynchronous support service accessible to all of our students in the prison program. To give you some background on this service, or even on the correctional education program here at AU. So Ashland University runs probably the largest, longest running prison program in higher ed, certainly in the United States. I believe since 1964. Right now, we have over 3,000 students in our correctional ed programs, and the university offers over 380 bachelor program degrees, and in addition to, I would say, like I think over 1,000 associate degrees. The program operates, I believe, in 13 states, plus the District of Columbia. As for the WCC e-tutoring service, we launched the service in the spring of 2022 in collaboration with the composition program. And during the spring of 2022 was only open to students taking English classes. Lisa Teitler, who presented this morning, is in fact one of our wonderful e-tutors and has been with us since the creation of the e-tutoring service. So after 2022, so a year later, we expanded the service to include all other courses, serving any student enrolled in CE classes. So the way it works, students access the service as a course on in their learning management system. Here we use Blackboard and Lantern, and from within the course, students submit questions, and within 24 hours for 5 days a week, our e-tutors respond to students' requests. And I forgot to actually mention that the service began as an inquiry really into how we could support our students in prison. Henderson uses the concept of the wiggle room. So when I accepted this position, we did not have any support system for students in prison. And although I have to say students had access to math tutoring, they did not receive any help beyond the support that they usually get from their instructors or their site directors. Henderson defines the wiggle room as the space or opportunity for educators to exercise discretion and creativity within the constraints of their structured educational system. And I gotta say, one thing that I try to do in this position is locating those opportunities and connecting with the right people to help turn ideas into feasible plans. In terms of the WCC e-tutoring service, there are definitely several reasons why we wanted to launch such a service, but mainly to provide students in correctional education with a support mechanism similar to what we have on campus, and help them with all sorts of assignments, from written ones to oral ones, or even those that employ multiple modalities or modes of communication. And another reason is students taking CE correctional courses that are writing or speaking intensive need that extra layer of support to improve their written and communication skills that can be used in other classes as well down the road in their academic journey. And as the WCC focuses on skill transfer and autonomy, we'd like to use that model as much as possible. And in fact, we are receiving more and more questions about navigating the academic culture, and general questions about how to become a better writer. More so questions of this nature than specific questions about the actual content areas, which was a worry among some of our e-tutors when we decided to open up the service to include all courses. We know that CE, correctional education students have different needs, especially when it comes to access to resources. So we would like for this service to be an opportunity to direct students and guide them through different types of assignments, and also share with them sources whenever possible. One of the greatest things that came from the service is that we have been actually collecting data from day one, data on student usage, student requests, e-tutor feedback to students, e-tutor satisfaction, and service evaluation. So to the students, it looks more like a course, but at the end of the course, or at the end of the semester, the students complete the course evaluation. So as a matter of fact, last summer, we used the data collected to advise the composition subject matter experts for the composition courses to adjust their curriculum. Now, the director of the composition, Lisa Teitler, one of our amazing e-tutors, and myself are working on a research project using the data. So it is a service with a lot of potential for our students, and also for um, our academic programs, and we would like to continue examining the data to see how we can improve as academic programs, and also as a service. The idea to move from traditional writing center that only focus on helping students take in English courses, to a center that supports all modes of communication, came as a result of the evolving landscape in higher ed, but also as a result of how student needs and profiles have changed over the years. In the first presentation this morning, the presenters touched on the ethical use of generative AI, and to me, that is only the beginning of something bigger, something more transformative in its scale, which forces us, as it should, to think of innovative ways to make our work more meaningful. Oh, is that my time, Macy? Okay, sorry. I'll if you just give me a few seconds. So one thing that we're doing is language. Now we're providing support to students needing help with assignments in Spanish. Again, like catering to linguistic diversity. Hopefully, we'll do the same thing with French in the future, as the only second foreign language we offer here on campus. Multiliteracy, again, this past academic year, we launched our first guest speaker series. We had 2 guest speakers talk about the importance of communication, a second one on reading complex texts, trying to reach different students in different ways. And I think the third example that I have here is our podcast, Wings of Wisdom, with 2 objectives. One is to familiarize students with the services that we have on campus, and also to stress the importance of communication. This first season, we recorded 17 episodes, and invited guests, from faculty members, administrators, community members, and as well as students. And in addition to the one-on-one services that we offer, we also work on implementing different ideas like summer camp in collaboration with Ashland Center for Nonviolence, writing boot camp in the fall, workshops in class and outside the class. And also we work on developing materials and creating a resource bank for our students, in addition to multiple contests that we organize yearly. And this is my email address if you want to connect. But I think maybe we have some time for questions, Macy. Hopefully I didn't run out of time.
No, I think what we're going to do is go through both the presentations and then do the questions.
Wonderful. Okay.
So I apologize that you had to rush through some of the
No.
literacy section. So hopefully we can ask some questions on it.
Yeah, I apologize. Should have asked you to give me that.
No,
But,
no, I'm so sorry because I've been saying it at the beginning of the sessions before everyone's in the room to clarify that I would be holding up this way since you couldn't
yeah,
see the chat.
okay.
Um,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
yes, yeah, but honestly, the part about the program that y'all have had going the longest was very interesting. So it was nice to hear so much about that part. Um, oh, okay. So Kendon said we have to actually wait a little bit on the rest of his presenters. So there were not any questions in the chat as you were talking. But if you would like to talk a bit more about the multiliteracy for another minute or two, you can.
Sure. So let's see. Um,
Sorry to spitball that at you a little
no, no,
bit
no,
for
that's good.
sitting.
That's great. So again, to cater to different needs and reach students using different modes of communication, we launched our very first guest speakers, and we managed to secure funds to invite speakers. And um, the first talk was on the importance of communication in academia and beyond. And the second one was on how to read complex texts. Um, we also do have another initiative called Accent on Communicating, which again is it's kind of like a weird setup where we WCC works with other units on campus to collaborate, but which makes sense. So this is again for the whole university, it's not just for one unit. But Accent on Communicating does not only support students but also supports faculty. So we invite guest speakers, and 2 summers ago we had a week-long workshop for faculty, who focused more on the WAC-WIT usage and implementation within the curriculum. This spring, we invited a speaker to give a talk on implementation of AI, and that was not as well attended, but it was a great way to start that conversation, and hopefully would be able to secure more funds to invite more speakers and continue the conversation.
Yeah, I know Cameron has a question here in the chat about the summer camps. If the summer camps are also boot camps and what some of the topics might be for those and who's allowed to attend them.
Very good. So the summer camp, actually, we're trying this for the very first time this summer in June, a 2-day camp that's open to eighth grade students through high school. So again, like we're targeting different ages, and it's organized in collaboration with it's an on-campus center called Ashland Center for Nonviolence, which aims at stressing the importance of peace and peacemaking. The camp will focus on peace building as well as communication skills. So we'll be doing some free writing. We'll be doing some poetry writing, maybe fiction writing, while discussing themes of peace and conflict resolution. So we're gonna try this just this summer for 2 days and see if there is a demand. Hopefully next year we'll grow into something bigger. And it's open to I think we capped it at 20, so we'll see.
Wow, that is awesome.
And
I
we're sorry, I was going to say that we're trying the boot camp as well for the first time in the fall, and we managed to secure funds for that. At least the bulk of it will be funded through a grant, and this will be open to all Ashland University students where they actually come here. They'll have space to write if they're working on intensive, writing projects from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. a whole weekend, Saturday and Sunday. We'll provide all their meals, snacks, and also will have writing consultants on site to help with any questions that they might have.
I was interested in something I saw on one of your slides that we kind of had to go by, which
Oh, I
was,
can go back.
oh, it's okay. I can describe it. It was the multiliteracy. One of the flyers was for poetry.
Yeah.
And that's a question we've gotten recently that we're considering how to approach is that some of our ESL international graduate students are interested in how to be creative in a foreign language. And we're a generalist tutoring center, so we already don't have too many creative writing people in the center. But I was just wondering how that went, having a poetry contest that was also combining multiliteracy.
It's actually one of our most popular contests that we have. So it's organized around Thanksgiving,
Okay.
and the theme is where I'm from. So focusing more
Oh,
on reflecting on one's childhood and describing the importance of family and home. Um, and it's free verse, so any form is accepted. Um, but I can see the appeal of something like this to international students. We do
yeah.
provide. I'm more than happy to share, the supporting documents that we have. We do provide some samples for students to look at. Um,
I'm gonna make note of that for next
and
semester.
and we'd like to do something similar for our incarcerated students. Unfortunately, we've been facing some hurdles when it comes to, I suppose, when it comes to awards. So with all of our contests, our students receive some type of award. Um, with incarcerated students, so there are a lot of, especially that we operate across several states. So there are a lot of, I guess, state regulations that we have to take into account. But it's something that we'd like to organize for our students in prison.
Yeah, I would say that even with the hurdles, your writing and communication center is doing a lot of what other writing centers might consider dream projects. So it's cool, all the different stuff y'all are doing. And I see that Kindon has some people next to them now. Oh, okay, cool, awesome. So we will now switch over. Kindon, just so you know, I will put in the chat as well, but I'll also hold up 2 minutes, 1 minute, 0 minutes. And today, Kindon Kurtzer, Natasha J. Lee, and Amy Macias, sorry, Kindon Kurtzer and Natasha J. Lee from the University of California, Davis, and Amy Messias Stowe, Mary Herr, and Nieva Manalo are coming from the California State University in Sacramento to talk to us about Resumers in and Beyond, a writing intensive preparatory course, challenges, assets, and opportunities. So take it away.
Share my screen, shouldn't I? There we go. Okay. Oh, sorry, new laptop. I need to give it
Oh,
permissions.
all good.
Although I've done this before, so I don't know why.
And so
Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna have to leave and come back on. Just give me one.
Okay.
Apologies.
No problem. We hadn't had a single technology issue yet. It had to happen at some point. Okay.
Take two.
Yeah. Okay.
Are we in?
Awesome.
Okay, let me close a bunch of things that you don't need to see. Okay. So yes, thank you for bearing with us and being with us as we share some of our work together. So as we were introduced, so I'm Kendon Kurzer. I'm presenting with a number of my students. The latter three are themselves returning students who were taking a course with me, and the call for this proposal came out. And so I was like, you know what, let's try and see what happens with this. And then I have Natasha Lee, who is my student intern at UC Davis, working as I'm the WAC coordinator. She supports all of our stuff as we do outreach. So she got involved too. And so we'll talk about just kind of a brief introduction of what we looked at with this project. Natasha will share some literature review. I'll share some more information about the specific context of this little quasi-study thing that we did. And then hopefully some of the actual resumers will be able to join in. I know they were right at noon our time was when they would be able to join. So hopefully they'll chime in. If not, I can cover some of that content too. And we'll talk really about the writing intensive preparatory course experiences that the resumers had, as well as their experiences moving into the actual writing intensive course that they took after my class. And then we'll look at some suggestions for strengthening the WI prep course from a resumer framework in particular. And so as we all know, if we're here, we're interested in supporting returning, resuming, however we're calling them. At Sac State, one of my students involved with this, Amy, actually was like, this is a term that I heard on campus, the resumers thing, and it really seemed to resonate with her. And so that's what we've leaned into, you know, and my aim with this project in particular is to elevate the resumers' voices themselves as much as possible. So that's why they're co-authors, they're co-presenters. It's really, I hope to center their voices as much as possible, recognizing the very real limitations that they're operating in under. But as we know, they experience a lot of barriers to various facets of higher education, including writing. And so we'll talk about our writing in intensive courses and then share the three resumers' experiences themselves. And Natasha will now share some of the literature review for us.
Awesome, thank you. So we found 3 common themes for how resumers transition back to academic writing spaces. One of these is how a common suggestion is often to have resumers use their personal experiences directly in the writing classroom, but there are important considerations in how to properly introduce this. Many resumers do have recent writing experience from the workforce, but they're often hyper aware that academic writing has different and perhaps more obscure expectations. So the pressure of correctly adjusting to different conventions for target audience, tone, and purpose becomes a major worry, especially if these terms are not explicitly defined in the classroom. So making students' personal lives and experiences the topic of writing assignments can also boost engagement and positive self-reflection, encouraging students to take pride in their writing and for them to improve those specific skills. This can also be an opportunity to discuss writing in the disciplines themes of how specialized knowledge and perspectives can be used in academic writing. However, asking resumers to blend their private lives and academic expectations can induce insecurity or anxiety without also giving them structured support for assignments. Our second theme focuses on how anxiety is a major barrier that prevents resumers from acclimating to academic writing spaces. Generalized, gender-related, and age-related anxieties are all commonly reported. Suggestions for how a writing instructor can identify and address anxiety in the classroom includes offering surveys, holding individual conferences, and also just facilitating class discussions. And that latter option provides opportunities for instructors to learn about students' hidden insecurities and express empathy for them, and for resumers themselves to realize that they are not alone in their struggle with both anxiety and writing. Open class discussions can also help resumers form supportive classroom communities with their peers and also with younger students. And the instructor of a writing classroom is another critical factor in the transition of resuming students. They can help resumers by acknowledging their position in the classroom and encouraging them to take advantage of their past experiences in their writing, but instructors can also turn into another stressor. Many students cite perceived disrespect or disagreements with their instructor as a detriment to their academic effort or performance, and these may stem from unfamiliarity with academic culture or miscommunication. Strict policies about attendance or late work can also unfairly exclude resuming students who often have more responsibilities outside of school. And this is why awareness of resumers' positions and situations and individual situation is very important. WAC workshops can potentially keep instructors updated about best practices and proper approaches for this growing student population that administrators may miss. So ultimately, we realize that there is a dearth of research about resuming students. Many studies don't distinguish resumers from the broader category of non-traditional students, or they center models about first-time or graduate adult students. So there is a need for more research such as ours that works directly with undergraduate resuming students and uplifts their perspectives, and we should continue to acknowledge their transition back into academic writing classes from their varied life experiences. And WAC and WID classes can be a useful model to address both their barriers and their strengths. Thank you.
So then I'll talk a little bit more. Isn't she great, by the way? We'll talk a little bit more about the actual context here. So at California State University, Sacramento, Sac State, and this is we have portions that are universally true and required for all CSUs. So CSU wide, there's this first-year composition writing requirement. There's a second-year composition writing requirement. Then there's what's called this graduate writing assessment requirement. It's GWAR. Which is also really it's a junior level requirement. There's a placement portion which is fulfilled either using a placement score from a portfolio or via an actual class. And then students are required to take a writing intensive course. Most majors, I don't have the exact numbers on this, I could get it if we wanted to, but most majors have an in-house writing intensive requirement. Some majors do not, and students are left to take any writing intensive fulfilling course to fulfill that requirement. But by and large, in my experience at least, most of the students have one or two kind of writing intensive courses that are required in their particular major. And then again, so an option instead of, so students by and large fulfill the GWAR requirement by getting a placement score from the portfolio that says, yes, you're ready to succeed in this writing intensive course. But then we also offer this preparatory class. It's called English 109W or M for multilingual. There's a multilingual sheltered version of it as well. That basically a passing score from that class fulfills that requirement too, so that then we say that they are ready for their writing intensive class. And so in my context, I was teaching this WI preparatory class and had a good number of resumers in my class, which is where we decided to put together this little project. And so I really approach this. I am a WAC administrator. So at UC Davis, I'm full-time at UC Davis, part-time at Sac State. At UC Davis, I run the Writing Across the Curriculum tutoring program where we provide outreach support for instructors of our writing intensive courses across campus. That's about 800 instructors a year. We teaching about 1,200 different sections of these writing intensive. It's writing experience. It's a diluted version of a writing intensive, really. But that's our class there. And so I draw on my expertise when teaching this WI prep class. I really look at it from a WAC framework. We research WI expectations. So I have students figure out which class they're supposed to be taking. They find a syllabus, they find assignment prompts and all of those requirements there. And so they do a paper actually analyzing that. And I actually do kind of a combined literacy narrative piece to that too. So here's what I've done previously. Here's what's coming. Here's kind of my stresses, my anxieties about what I need to actually do to perform to the expectations of that class. Then we do a lot of kind of genre analysis. They put together a how-to guide for how to write in their particular discipline. And so it's very much a WAC approach to what will be eventually a WID paper or WID context there. I don't think, do we have Amy in here? I don't see her. Let me briefly just share a little bit of information about Amy, and if she pops in later, I know she was going between meetings at this time. So one of our resumers, and Amy was great, she worked with this project quite extensively. She is a wife, mother, grandmother, bilingual, English and Spanish, communications major, Spanish minor. Before she gets on, I can say she was, a little high anxiety about returning. She had 6 years. So she had been at Sac State since the fall of 2022, but had been away for 6 years after getting her associate's degree. She chose to take the 109W as opposed to fulfilling it using the portfolio to basically refamiliarize herself with academic writing fundamentals. We'll touch on this a little bit later, but she felt that even though it was an added cost in terms of time and tuition, she felt like that taking the class was a good move for her to be able to get that experience and kind of really a nice recap. And that's one of the themes that we will touch on too a little bit later. And then she was challenged with our class in terms of the course readings. You know, it's a writing class that moves quickly. There's a lot of assignments to it. Really leaning into her role as a peer reviewer was challenging for her, although she also really came to terms with it and could bring some nice expertise from her, you know, real world context. But all worked together to help her understand how to analyze and really write effectively. And so she's currently enrolled in her WID course, right? Her WI course. I haven't talked with her extensively since starting the term. And so I was hoping that she would be able to speak to some of the more updated experiences. So hopefully she'll be able to pop on later. But she did feel that because she had the foundations of this WI preparatory course, she was able to really lean into writing in her communications course in meaningful ways. Yeah. Then Mary, I don't think Mary can be with us today, although she was going to try. So Mary is a sociology major. She's also been an administrative assistant at a private therapy clinic for many years. And this was her first semester back after a 10-year hiatus. So this was last fall that she started again. And so she was required to actually take the prep course. And I'm not entirely sure why. I think in her case, it was because she started at Sac State, if I remember correctly. And then because she was gone for 10 years, they wanted, this was a requirement. She could have challenged that requirement, but ultimately decided that she would just lean into it. And so she was quite stressed about writing at the beginning of the term. This term, she was supposed to take a WI course, but she actually had to drop it because of work schedules, which, as we know, is a common issue among these resumers. Then we've got Nieva. So Nieva is also a wife and mother, grew up learning English as a second language. She retains 2 Filipino languages. She is a registered nurse. And so she would, you know, one of those students, the class was offered in the evening. And so she would show up in her scrubs, right? Because she had been working a full day, also common with resuming students. And so scheduling these classes, right? I'm teaching the same class now and it's 7:30 in the morning to make sure that we can get the students who are needing to get to work later. But a common issue again with the resumers. And so she's already a registered nurse, but she's pursuing the bachelor's degree in nursing at Sac State after a 17-year hiatus. And so this class, she felt, helped provide, again, some of those tools to really get into analysis and understanding writing prompts to convey responses. She felt more confident, more aware of those capabilities, especially as she gets into her actual nursing writing intensive class that she's taking this term. I'm not talking over her, am I? She's not on yet, is she? No. Okay, good. No, or not good, but you know. So do you want to take any of these or do you want me to just do it?
You can,
Okay.
because I have to see this.
That's fine.
Thank you.
So some main themes that emerged from our experiences together regarding the actual prep course. So one of my limitations looking in hindsight was that I assumed that given that this was a junior level class, I had assumed, we know where that goes, that students had already gone through that first year composition, that second year composition, and that they were, you know, really there. I expected it to be more of the students who had struggled at those levels, because otherwise they would just submit a portfolio and wouldn't take the class. It wasn't even on my radar that I would have a relatively high proportion of resuming students. And again, that's my limitation, a problem with communication in the department and program maybe, but it's something that I obviously should have been more aware of. As we ramped up, I attempted to treat resumers' experiences as an asset. We want to be able to have students speak to their experiences, and that my assignments kind of unintentionally did some of that. But I think I can do a whole lot more to actually deliberately build that in. More on that later too. The resumers by and large valued particular key themes, genre awareness and discipline-specific writing norms, right? Obviously key things that would be very relevant to them. Source integration expectations, style and citation conventions, critical thinking and analysis skills came up a while. I really hit audience awareness heavily, and so they reported that that was something that would be helpful for them. They shared anxiety universally, right? They felt that they were outsiders in many ways, trying to deal with all of the very intense, we do a lot of writing in this. And so dealing with all of that on top of their other demands was challenging for them. Several of them noted that they wanted a little bit more explicit linguistic and grammar support than I really had covered in the class. And again, thinking about where the class is as a junior level class, that's something that I hadn't intended to build in, and there's certainly room to do more of that there. And felt that we could really lean into the mentoring abilities of resumers too. They, again, because they bring these great experiences, we can use that to our advantage and to really strengthen the class. And so I need to do better at really leaning into that more. In the writing intensive course themselves, at least as of a couple of weeks into the term, they did feel more confident, right? They felt like because they were more prepared, they had already looked over the syllabus, major assignments, they knew what was expected of them, and so they felt more prepared than if they had just taken the class without having taken my WI preparatory course. They appreciated as well the audience awareness thoughts, the APA norms, all of them happened to be APA, even though we didn't. And so most of the class was APA. And so we focused on that mostly because the students mostly were in those fields. But we talked about the distinction between APA, Chicago, and MLA in particular, and how different disciplines really value the different citations approaches, as well as critical analysis and really being able to think critically and deeply about things. And again, like I alluded to earlier, Amy felt that while students could think that taking this extra course may feel unnecessary, moving forward with that confidence to her was worth it. And so I think continuing to offer this as an option is certainly wise, especially thinking about resumers' needs. They did have some suggestions, right? So moving scaffolding beyond the typical approaches that I already take as, somebody who teaches writing in lots of different contexts, but really thinking about how the resumers are needing to, what their needs are. So really being more deliberate to take time at the beginning of the term to solicit student thoughts on their course needs. What is it that they think they need to get out of it? And then making sure that I'm addressing those. Like I briefly mentioned too, I reframed the literacy narrative to feature writing that wasn't just conducted immediately prior to this preparatory class. I didn't assume anymore that the students had gone through first year and second year composition courses, but that they actually had, but could bring in these other kinds of writing that they do in the real world. Oops. And then I do more to emphasize the real world experiences that resumers bring to the classroom too. With Nieva, right? It's really nice to have somebody who's showing up in scrubs. And so when we've got other students who are in medical related fields, then I can do groups around them where I can be like, look, this isn't just Dr. Kurzer talking at you and saying like, you're going to be doing writing. Let's talk to an actual nurse who's in there. What kinds of things are she doing? And then building in more deliberate anxiety features, talking about anxiety. I already do conferences one-on-one with students, but doing that more deliberately across the course of the term could be helpful. Routine surveys, weekly check-ins or bi-monthly check-ins, those kinds of things could all be resources there. So those are some of the main takeaways. We've got our select references here, and I'm happy to take questions, thoughts, comments, and we can go from there. Yeah, I don't see anybody else here either. So comments, questions. I buzzed. That's probably one of them saying, I can't be here.
Yeah, anyone feel free to unmute or use, reactions to raise your hands or use the chat. It's all appropriate ways to ask.
Amy says she's logged in, but can't see anybody.
Oh. She might be in the wrong link.
I emailed that one to her directly too. Let me.
And also, Christy has asked if you would be willing to share your slides.
Certainly.
I also thought that was a great just speed through of the literature. That was awesome to get those key sources.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was definitely sped through.
Yeah, but good pacing and it was clear. So,
Thank you very much.
and thank you, Allison, for sharing that as well.
Macy, do you happen to have the specific link for this one?
Yes.
On hand.
Oh,
Good.
sorry, I just realized Allison there it is. Okay.
Sorry, I meant to share that with everybody. There you go.
Yes, all good. I didn't
Thank-
recognize it either at
No worries,
first.
thank you. I'll send it.
And I do apologize, Kendon, for the time and the fact that y'all are way farther ahead on the time zone schedule than we are.
No, you're fine. It's this week has been, it's the probably is for you as well. It's the last week of classes at Sac State. So
Yeah.
they're all busy and again juggling all of the things that they are doing. So I don't know. It happens.
Yeah, we actually we're Texas A&M and Clemson University, and we're both done now, and that's why we chose this date. We didn't realize that some schools were in the toughest part of the semester. So
That's all right. Yeah, so please do email me. I'd be happy to share the slides. And I did just send the link to Amy. Hopefully she can pop on and we can get at least a little thoughts from her if we have other things, if we've got the time for it at least. But yeah, other questions?
I really liked if I heard in the one of the things that you were highlighting about the resumers. First of all, I love the idea of focusing on the resumers. I like the idea of spending more time in researching on them. You mentioned that resumers they have a certain anxiety as outsiders, and yet they're also sort of that what you would call an asset, something that you came to think of them as very much. Do those two things work together? Is there something, or I don't know. I just was making notes and they ended up on my notepad here together. But I do think that there's something about the kind of hyper awareness of their positionality, something along those lines is what I was thinking. I don't
Sure.
know if that made sense, if that kind of makes sense to what it is that you've found with working this population.
I would agree. And I do wish that my email is just like sending to Amy. Why is it not just going? I would love to hear Amy's thoughts on this. Let me try sending a new email to her and see if that
I
works.
think she just popped on, it looks like.
Oh, perfect.
Wonderful.
Amy. Hi, Amy. Sorry, so Cameron, just give me 1 minute to catch Amy up a little bit and then we can kind of talk about that a little bit. So Amy, hi, can you hear us? You're muted. Canvas or Zoom, it's fun. Well, we'll see. So my 2 cents, and again, it is only 2 cents compared to what their far more valuable contribution would be. I don't see the anxiety piece and the asset piece as being flip sides of the same coin for sure. I think they can experience those anxieties and be assets both for the real world experiences and because they're anxious. I mean, many students beyond resumers experience anxiety and imposter syndrome and all of this, especially at a relatively large university that is really designed to pull students from all levels. And so at Sac State in particular, especially since I teach at both UC Davis and Sac State, very different student populations, I have to be careful about not just assuming that students bring the same backgrounds. And so I approach anxiety a little bit differently in Sac State than I do at UC Davis, although maybe that's also an issue given the issues that we have at UC Davis. But so I think maybe because of their anxiety, we could, if we could develop meaningful approaches to supporting multilingual students in their experiences, sorry, I said multilingual, resuming students as they're really approaching and entering into their degrees, we can do more meaningful work that will also then benefit the rest of the class as well. And so they can be an asset both in terms of if I'm honing my pedagogical approaches to meet their needs, then I'm also it's going to be a broader umbrella to bring everybody in. Did that kind of make sense?
It did. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like that that way of thinking about them, because I do think that there's something extremely valuable about the experience and outsider experience in general, just to say. So
Amen.
so thank you.
I-
I'm just gonna, oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I absolutely appreciate that perspective myself.
I'm going to take just a moment, since I've got the floor here unmuted, that I very much apologize for having to pop off early myself to join another Zoom. But thank you so much. Please continue conversing for the remaining time, and thank you so much for being here. It's really been a pleasure to talk with you all and hear from your various researches. So thank you. So I'll go now, but thank you, and look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Cameron. Amy, hi. You're muted.
I went to 3 different computers. Okay, there
Oh,
we go.
no.
We're set.
Oh,
All
no.
right. Okay.
I mean, speaking to our lived experiences, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was not on time myself, so it's again one of those weeks.
Yeah.
So we did work through the presentation. We've had a couple of questions. I would, if somebody else has a specific question for Amy, maybe now would be, how much time do we have first, Macy?
So there's about 7 minutes, and then Allison's going to close us out.
Okay, so we've got about 7 minutes. If anybody has a question that they'd like to get from Amy, if not, I would ask her to share a little bit more about her experiences now that she's wrapping up the writing intensive course.
Amy, I have a question for you based
Yes.
on something, well, Katie's not here, but it's something she had mentioned in her story, which is about, having a child who might also be going to college or going through school. And I believe you have both children and grandchildren, correct?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just wondering, because this is an experience I'll never really get to experience, what is that like when you are going to college while you might also have children who are going through like the same experience or needing the same resources?
Well, but my son finished or was finishing when I returned to school. So he actually
Yeah.
became a resource for me in a sense. My daughter and I kind of crossing over and having the same timeline, her graduating this semester. I think our experiences are just so different that it's more just about maybe sharing frustrations, or if we get tips, we kind of share them with one another, but it's just a different experience. And when you say resources, do you mean like writing center or
I guess I
uh
mean anything, like, oh, we're
uh
both working on a final paper. I found this
yeah,
website and stuff
okay,
like
yes.
that. Or even,
We
like you said, frustrations, like we can
I
both
think
talk
more
about how
so
bad
it's
parking is.
Yeah, I think more so it's a frustration, or then her knowing that I understand the stress of midterms and finals, or even when I just returned to school and my son was already moving through his undergrad. I knew that, okay, this is a stressful time. I didn't realize how stressful. So let me remind him to take a break, or let me remind him to take some deep breaths. And that also their just their response to me as no, as sort of a respect that, oh, she does know what she's talking about, she's in it. And so has been a lot of great communication with both of them on that note, and my daughter and I definitely sharing in even being on the same campus, sharing in things that were a collective frustration, or making sure that the one another has certain information, me so more with her, making sure, hey, I learned this, did you know this? Hey, I found this resource, were you aware of that? But it's definitely been helpful across the board. um, just communicating with 2 kids who are ahead of me in the process.
Yeah,
Does that answer?
yes,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really interested in like just the phenomenon. How does something happen? That's just such a unique oh, yes, as well. If anyone has questions for Mosine, it's both people right now. But it's interesting how seeing having a traditional college student in the home and a non-traditional college student, you have such a closer experience as what are those differences and disconnects that are happening, which is just so cool.
Yes,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's
frustrating at the same time, but very cool from
yeah.
an administrator's perspective. So
Yes, and I think as a parent, it's been kind of cool. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being able to kind of come to their level of, at this time we're both doing the same thing. Also, um, if I have some knowledge on something, there's a level of, like I said, oh, she knows what she's talking about in that regard, versus, hushing me or mom, you don't know, or you've never been through this. Um, or it was 30 years ago versus I'm actually going through it right now. So I can speak on it in this time frame. So I think that's been interesting and created just a different supportive um, collective amongst the three of us.
yeah,
This is our own little thing that we have together, and I've enjoyed it. I hope they
yeah,
have too.
yeah. That's such a interesting dynamics of respect. That sounds really cool. And I also see that Christy has a hand raised.
Yeah, this is for Amy, but I think anybody could speak to it. People might have many thoughts from many perspectives on it. I know in some of the work that I've been doing with students, one of the things they've talked about is how there's so many pressures now, like from colleges, from universities, from policymakers to do more credits faster. And there's like reasons for that in terms of whether it's, the likelihood of people completing their degrees, but also like just the exhaustion of it's just not possible for a lot of people with their lives and other responsibilities to sustainably carry a full-time course load, and it burns them out and it backfires. And so I was just wondering what y'all's thoughts are about some of those issues of time, are about these ideas that there's a right number of credits or a better number of credits to be carrying that like would apply to students in this universal way.
I I think I could quickly add to that if it's okay. With my daughter, she's a little bit, she didn't do the 4 years. I think with COVID, she kind of slowed down a little bit. So me being in the same situation and really feeling the stress, um, helped me to support her in making that decision for herself. You're only going to do 3 this semester. Does that work for you? Okay, then go ahead and do that. You're only going to do 4. Okay, if is what works for you, with a real understanding of the level of stress of it in like real time. So she's finishing this spring, which is she just turned 24. So she did it at her own pace, and I had an understanding of what that looked like and why she needed to do that. And then for myself, I'm only able to do part-time. And that's a lot. 2 courses is a lot for me with full-time. Um, but if I do any less, I'll never finish. So, but yeah, for me, there's an understanding of how stressful it is for the students. And I think they should be able to do what works best for them, because I see a lot of the mental health issues discussed now in relation to that.
All great points. I would just add that I think Sac State, from a more administrative perspective, is kind of an interesting institution where it's fairly aggressively trying to look more prestigious, 4-year-y. And so it talks a lot about, look, we're improving our 4-year graduation rates, but then a high chunk of our students are resumers, are non-traditional students coming from really different backgrounds. I mean, I don't know that there's ever been a class I've taught at Sac State where I haven't had at least a handful of students, even younger students, with children. And so it's kind of the reality that we really need to be doing more than just talking about 4-year graduation rates. And so hopefully in our department, we're doing things where we can push back on, yes, we might not have our majors, our students who come through may not have the graduation rates that the university is pushing for, while recognizing that 6 years is great. And Sac State is nice in that they do look, it's not just the 4-year that we care about. We do look at the 6, the 5, 6, and those numbers matter too. So some of the conversations happen, but I think there's not always a solid connection between what we say we're valuing and what we're actually valuing regarding that. Good question. Yes, agreed. It is absolutely challenging. And I do think, and Amy, maybe you can speak to that. I don't know enough about what happens at Sac State to know how the scholarship is linked to full-time versus part-time, but
I'm not sure on scholarships. Being a staff member with Sac State, they do offer a fee waiver and they will cover part-time up to 6 units, which I didn't realize until I started working here, and it's been very helpful. They're also very supportive with their staff who are enrolled and give them 3 hours a week to go to class. So that's really been a great help to me personally, but I'm really not sure on scholarships and things like that.
yeah, that's great that you have that though, Amy.
Oh yeah, my deans in my office asked me, "Don't you know about that?" And I said, "No." Oh my God, tell me more, please. So yes, it's been great.
So maybe more communication in terms of what expectations are targeted for resumers and would be
Yeah.
a wise move.
Yeah, yes.
Other thoughts, comments, questions?
I'm just curious how this writing intensive prep course, or even the whole program, how does it help integrate resumers in particular in campus life?
Not intentionally. I would say there's a lack of intentionality when it comes to this, and a lot of it is more just, oh, cool, the resumers can get this class, and if they elect to take it and they don't try to do the other things out, it ends up being a good experience. I don't know that there is, and maybe there is, but I doubt that there's a whole lot of intentional advertising or, reaching out to the resuming students to say, you're coming back, by the way, this is one good option for you to fulfill. Amy, you could probably speak to any messaging that you've received before 109 about it.
The push was the
The
PT,
WI.
or
Oh,
the test that
Yeah.
was pushed. That was pushed a lot. The 109W wasn't really brought up a lot to me. I think it was more to just submit your emails, and then I had to research and talk with advisors who guided me on, you can do this W109 or 109W if you so choose. But in Canva, it's a continual, it's your time, submit your, so they really push that. That's what I found.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, not intentionally. And I would, I mean, I think Sac State really is good about recognizing that not all students come from the same background. We're a large commuter campus, and so we're used to catering to non-traditional in those kinds of senses. And so I think the aim is just cast a broad net and hope it captures all of the students who needs it, but it's a limitation.
Yeah, I would say for all, even here, we do have a portion of the student population that's commuter, non-traditional or fully online. And I don't know how much we're doing as, different departments and as an institution to integrate those students in the opportunities that we provide students.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah, and as a commuter myself, like when I did my grad work, most of it, I did not feel connected to the institutions I went to. Just because I went to classes, I finished classes, then I had to drive an hour and a half back home. So yeah, you don't have the same connection as someone who's there most of the time and has deeper connections with faculty and students.
Yeah, it's tricky. Any last comments, questions, thoughts?
Do you want me to share that I really do feel that the 109W was an immense help. This writing intensive has been challenging, and the thought that I would have been taking this course and still questioning some of the main fundamentals, that would have just been overwhelming. So to go in with a confidence in that and having practiced and prepared for it, which a lot of us, I would think for myself, returning to college, from the time that I got my associate degree to transferring in, there was a time delay. So I really needed that. And you warned us that writing in your Discord was going to be challenging, and it really was. So I was able to really focus on what they were trying to teach me and learn how to research and follow these research methods versus, oh my God, how do I cite an APA? Or, oh gosh, what are these basic rules? So it I can't even tell you how much it helped. It did exactly what I needed it to do. And I took it for that purpose. So I will add that to my statement.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. And it's so nice to see you again too after.
I know, it's good to see you too. Good to see you too. And it's almost over.
I know you're very close.
I think that's a great note to end on, hearing from a resumer who has, telling us about what worked for you is wonderful. And before I turn this over to Allison to close, I just wanted to share an announcement that I think everyone here would be excited to hear about, even though you don't know them. My office mate from my graduate student cohort is 58. He was a professional athlete and then switched over to writing sport columns until he was in his 50s, and then told his wife, I want to go back to school. I need to do more. So with his 3 kids, he joined my office when he was 54 years old as my office mate. And I was just this, 28-year-old queer kid that was coming up in different outfits every day. And for just like Mosey was saying, I'm one of the only people in the department he still talks to because he commutes in from Austin and has to pick up his kids. And that caused all kinds of problems with our program. But in about 12 minutes, he is going to be announced as a doctor because he is defending his dissertation right now. And so he is my adult learner that has kept me in tune with what this is like as a graduate student being. And that's why I don't like the term adult learner, because I'm an adult, but I'm not 58 with a wife and kids at home defending my dissertation after being told all my life that I would just be an athlete. I'm so proud of him. We can do it. We can get people there. And now I will turn it over to Allison.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully my Wi-Fi will cooperate for just a couple of minutes here while I close this out. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure to meet before, I'm Allison Daniel. I'm with Clemson University here in South Carolina. I work at the Pierce Center for Professional Communication, and I serve as the managing editor for the WAC Journal, which is why I'm here today to talk to all of you. And I have had the pleasure of corresponding with many of you over email over the years. I just wanted to thank you all again for coming and being a part of this inaugural WAC Journal conference. This has been a great first experience for us. I think this went about as well as we could have hoped for a first attempt. So thank you all for being part of this. And we've enjoyed hearing all of your presentations and these really great conversations that have come out of this. And I hope everyone gets to leave here with some new ideas about how we can help our non-traditional students continue to thrive in writing and in their overall academic journeys as well. Once again, I'd like to thank the WAC Clearinghouse, Mike Palmquist, and Lee Nickerson for their assistance and generosity in providing this Hockman Fellowship and allowing Macy to work with us on this and make this a reality. As Cameron said, she had this idea for a while, but with our workloads, it kept getting pushed off and pushed off. So having Macy on board was really integral to helping with that. So thank you, Macy, once again. And then a shout out to my colleague at the Pierce Center, Sarah Costley, for her administrative wizardry that helps everything run smoothly on the back end. I know you all know that admins are invaluable in academic life. So shout out to her and the Pierce Center for making this possible. The Pierce Center as a platform has been fantastic in helping us realize these dream projects. To wrap up, I'd like to remind everyone that the conversations you've heard today and some others who weren't able to be with us today are going to be part of a special forum in an upcoming issue of the WAC Journal. So you'll get to hear more about all of these amazing topics and then some new ones as well. I'll be sure to share with you when that is published so you all can read and learn even more and hopefully connect with some more colleagues as well. Also, we would love your feedback on this. Please feel free to email Macy or myself with any comments, suggestions that you have. This is our first attempt, but we do hope to continue doing this. And so we would love to know what worked, what didn't work, to really help us out as we move forward. We really want to give more opportunities for our WAC scholars to get together outside of our big IWAC event. And so we're hoping that these little more intimate settings will be regenerative to our scholars, as well as provide some fertile ground for some new ideas. And speaking of that, if you have ideas that you think would make great special forums or mini conferences, please feel free to email me. I will pop my email in the chat. And I think you have it as well from getting the conference program, but please feel free to email me with proposals, or if you just have an idea, and Cameron, Dave Blakesley, and I would be happy to work with you to develop that into a full call and proposal, but we're always looking for more ideas as well. So thank you all so much for sharing your time and your research with us today. Feel free to hang out if you have any more questions or want to talk amongst yourselves, but I'm going to end the recording here and wish you all a great rest of your day.